Welcome to the Late Night Race Review.
It's Max Verstappen on the front row. It's Oscar Piastri on pole position. It's all eyes to the lights, then to the floor as we go racing in Imola. And it's a good start for Piastri. Norris as well making gains. The two Ferraris further back, trying to go side by side. George Russell trying to show his nose into turn one. And Verstappen side by side with Piastri through Tamburello and gets the job done. You've got to be brave round there. And he's done it. Verstappen takes the lead.
Don't forget to support the podcast by hitting those like, follow and subscribe buttons.
Welcome on in to the Late Night Race Review. My name is Aidan Scott and joining me today is Isidro Gonçalves, and returning from his luxurious holiday in Palm Springs when we specifically asked him to go to Miami to relieve Danica Patrick from her Sky Sports F1 duties is our American F1 panelist, Damien Scott. How are you guys doing today?
Great weather, great race.
Good. Damien, where were you? I
was sunning myself and playing a little golf in Palm Springs, taking it easy.
Well, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I really do. So, folks, today we had the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari Emilia-Romagna GP. Or to make things simple, we had the ImolaGP. That's right. Finally, after almost 2.5 months, ourselves on the other side of the pond can finally wake up at normal times and actually catch a race during the day. It was a weekend full of action that had drivers in the wall, drivers parking up to get out and have a picnic in the beautiful Italian countryside, and of course, Max Verstappen making everyone else look like a bunch of muppets. But before we unpack all of the action, we do need to talk about the most important bit of news of the weekend. And before you all get excited, no, Liam Lawson didn't announce his retirement from F1, or that all the rumours about Christian Horner getting sacked from Red Bull were all false. No, it's the fact that this weekend could potentially be the last weekend of the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari Emilia-Romagna GP. That's right. According to some credible sources, this could be the last weekend of the Imola GP. Guys, I need to get your thoughts on this one real quick because honestly, it's Imola. It's Imola, one of the most famous circuits on the calendar. The history, the pure skill that's needed to race on this track. I mean, what would they replace it with? Damien, look, you weren't with us on the last episode. I'll bring you in first. What are your thoughts on that one?
It is a classic. And I think we've seen with the new kind of stewardship of F1 that they're not afraid to kind of make some big decisions. Like I think we all love Spa, and it's kind of going to every other year kind of format as well. I think the same with the Netherlands at Zandvoort. So I think this is something that's happening. It's going to happen with other races that we love and everybody has known for years. I think there's some classics that have to be on it every year, and of course everybody's going to have their opinion about what those should be. Imola, say it's been around a long time, and it's a great circuit, so I'd be happy to see it on the calendar every year for sure. Obviously, it's a big race for the Ferrari fans. The Tifosi always turn up in big numbers and paint the town red.
Yeah.
So if it's totally canned, I think that's wrong. But I think in this new world of F1, going to every other year is a possibility. But me personally, I think it should be there every year. But let's see what happens.
And Isidro, what are your thoughts on this one? Because I know Damien's mentioned there that, look, it's Ferrari's race, it's Ferrari's home race. And you could argue, well, look, they still do have Monza, one of the other famous tracks on the calendar. Monza has always been one that everyone gets excited for. But I mean, there's other tracks where we're in the same country multiple times. I mean, we've got multiple American races now, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, should it go? I mean, realistically, the answer is no. But what are your thoughts?
I don't like to see Imola gone. It was like we were talking about that earlier. It was one of the first races. If you played the F1 games in the 90s or 2000s, the Italy GP was always the Imola. And it's sad to see such track, which is a very fast race, just disappear, or at least go in rotation, which means there'll be a few years without it. And they can argue, oh, Italy has already 2 races, like you're saying, has Monza, but now they are trying to increase the American audience. That's why they have 3 or probably as we speak, they are discussing more, and suddenly it's half and half. It's at least if they want to take away Imola, at least make it a rotation together with other ones. Scrap it completely.
I know.
I
I totally agree on that one because, like, what is it worth getting rid of one of the most iconic tracks in the world? I know that they want to cater more to the American audience. I mean, Damien, you guys are just ruining this sport. But I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. But I mean, like, Imola is just one of the most iconic tracks on the calendar, and to sacrifice it for something that, look, I know everyone has their own thoughts on this whole new Madrid circuit that's coming out now, and that's just basically a glorified street circuit. I know there's circuit parts of it that are certain track, that they're track specific areas, but look, it's just a glorified street circuit. I mean, that's replacing Catalonia as well. I mean, is it worth sacrificing all these historic tracks for just glorified street tracks, basically? I mean, is F1 going to finally, like, I'm not saying it will, but do you think it'll just start to lose its spice when it comes to the history of those tracks? I mean, compared to brand new street tracks?
I think the only good thing about the street tracks is that it's better for the fans. If you want to travel to the race it's in the city. It's not far away that you need to spend 1-2 hours driving there, and then there's a lot of traffic. That's the only upside of the of the street tracks for me. It's closer to the fans.
Yeah, that's true. But good for the fans. But for Carlos Sainz back in 2023 in Miami, definitely a scary one to get a manhole cover shoved up the back of your car in a street. But anyway, look, that's our thoughts. Personally, look, guys, I like it's a no-brainer. I am more of a fan of the actual OG like track circuits. I love those. I just love whenever we get a race and those sort of things. I'm not a huge fan of street racing. Obviously, I know Monaco is one of the most famous tracks on the calendar, and it is basically a street race. You always love Monaco, but I just feel that it'll start to lose its DNA if we just go gravitating more towards street tracks. But that's just my own opinion anyway. But moving on anyway, we need to talk about Imola. We need to talk about the weekend. We need to unpack this absolutely incredible race. Another great race on the calendar this year. Miami was fantastic, and this weekend was another one. But we do need to talk about qualifying, because qualifying was actually very, very, very exciting. But to sort of scratch off the first team off the list, we do need to talk about Red Bull and that Yuki Tsunoda, not even that crash, but that obliteration of that car during Q1. And then, of course, look, Max Verstappen, he did struggle a little bit, but he eventually overall did get P2 in Q3. Damien, I'll bring you in. What are your thoughts on that whole Yuki crash?
I think he had a little bit of bad luck. On that particular lap, he was kind of riding the curbs in the previous few corners, and the car was, reacting well when it was hitting back down onto the tarmac. But this particular one, I don't know if it was a little bit dusty or there was something on the track, but when he came back down onto the tarmac, the side it went sideways. The back just kind of gave out and spun around, and yeah, he was gone. He was gone after that. Kind of reminded me a lot of the Zhou Guanyu crash in Silverstone.
Oh yeah,
so where he rolled over a few times and flipped into the barrier, and yeah, the halo did its work for both Yuki and Zhou that day. So yeah, I think he was a little bit unlucky. I don't think he did too much wrong, but yeah, it was a big crash for him, and obviously only a few races into the promotion to the second Red Bull seat, it's the last thing he would have wanted,
I know, definitely, and especially with all the eyes on him this weekend, again trying to get some points for Red Bull. But Isidro, what are your thoughts on Yuki this weekend, just especially in qualifying there? Do you think that was just a bit of bad luck, or do you think maybe he's just struggling with that car? Is it another sort of Liam Lawson thing? Is he just can't get up the grips with that Red Bull?
No, I think Tsunoda was just leaving to the brand. Red Bull give you wings, and that's what he was doing. That's what he paid for. Promote Red Bull, and
he was like, not literal wings, guys, not literal wings, please.
But it was a bad crash, but that car was protecting Tsunoda very, very well, because the guy just stand up and get out of there quite quickly. So that's good. He was and scattered in the crash. On the other side, I imagine the Williams pit crew, they'll probably send a basket of fruit to the Red Bull guys saying, "I know what you're feeling, hang in there," or some sort of that message, because William has a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Not this year, but last year, Jesus, they were literally rebuilding the car every weekend on off.
Yeah. Well, talking about a team that needed to rebuild their car as well, and someone who is used to crashing into the wall, making his 2025 F1 debut, Franco Colapinto in that Alpine, replacing Jack Doohan and crashing during Q1. I mean, like, guys, what's the story? I mean, as soon as I seen it, I literally texted into the group chat. I was like, he's back. Franco Colapinto's back. Finally, we have him again. But, I'm going to throw this back to you, Damien. Like, is this a case? Did Briatore make a snap judgment there and he's now egg on his face with Colapinto? I mean, are we now going to start make the excuses? Oh, he's only a couple of, it's only his first race. I mean,
Yeah, he's still a rookie basically, right? But he did have, what was it, half a season last year. He had a good few races under his belt.
Yeah.
So these kind of mistakes, you would start to think he would not be making them anymore. I think it was Damon Hill on his Instagram page had put up a quote from Flavio just prior to it, and he was like, as long as he comes in and what was it? He goes fast, he scores points, and he doesn't crash, he'll do just fine. Just not, 2 minutes into his Alpine career, yeah, he bins it into the wall. So Jack Doohan was in the paddock somewhere, smiling a little bit. Yeah, look, Colapinto is that kind of guy. He seems to race right on the edge of what's safe and what's not. He has that kind of that style. So yeah, it's going to happen with him. I can't remember how many times he did it with Williams, at least twice anyway, I think. So yeah.
Oh, it was definitely more than that now, Damien. It's a good few times.
Blurred into one, So I think he's a great driver, but again, this is part of his style that he has to manage, and that comes with maturity and getting, a season or two under the belt. You get other drivers who have, 3, 4, or 5 seasons now. They know when to make these decisions and when not to. So yeah, you're going to get it with him for now. Doohan was probably done a bit hard, I think, on the decision to replace him. It was way too early to do it, but it is what it is when you have somebody like Flavio Briatore calling the shots now. So yeah, let's hope he does well, but again, not a great start for him.
Yeah, and between Yuki and Colapinto, I seen this meme during the weekend just after qualifying, and it was just Sergio Perez, and the quote was, "You guys miss me already?" Perez is out there going, "Guys, this is what you need to do, to go fast. If you do this and crash loads, you'll be fine. You'll last a good couple of years anyway till they finally tell you to go." But before we move on to our next team here that we do need to talk about, Isidro, I'm going to bring you in real quick on that Colapinto situation there. I mean, replacing Jack Doohan, I mean, what's your opinions?
Well, even though he did a couple of races in 2024, Colapinto, it's still a rookie, and he's driving an Alpine. I mean, that's just one step of a Sauber at the moment. And the fact that he went out, I'm not saying he's going to crash. He crashed in qualifying. He got out in Q2, and if we say that way, people like Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, they also got out in Q2. So Colapinto doesn't look so bad if you frame it that way, that he just got out in Q2.
Yeah,
but true. He just crashed the first when he got the car. But to be fair, I think he learned his lesson because the race went more smoother. And again, if he went to Q2, Alonso and Stroll, they haven't been in Q2 for a long time. So I think Colapinto was just fine.
Colapinto just got into the car and the engineers were like, "Okay, so this is what you do to put it into first gear." He just puts it in the first gear and just straight into a wall. It's like, did I do good, guys? Did I do good? But yeah. But anyway, 84 years later after that, we finally got a decision on the Oliver Behrman and Bortoleto times. I mean, my God, that felt like an absolute eternity. I thought it was going to be like the race. That was going to be like the next day before we actually got a decision on that whole situation. But then finally, Bortoleto at like a kick Sauber actually got through there to Q2, and then Behrman, he was out. But then moving on to the team that I know Damien is absolutely dying to talk about. I mean, as soon as this happened during qualifying, you know, I can just see him there, smile on his face, ready to go gun ho on this one. Williams. Sainz, oh my Jesus Christ, P1 in Q2. What the hell, Damien? And then, of course, Albon. He did well, I suppose.
Oh, well, he found all this pace from somewhere. You know, the Williams were looking good prior to that, but yeah, he just got in an absolute rocket of a lap. And yeah, Albon was in the mix as well. But yeah, it was a fantastic lap from Sainz. He literally didn't put a foot wrong that whole. It was a perfect lap. You got there. I had a feeling, obviously, you know, I think Max and Piastri probably had a bit more pace in their cars for sure. So I didn't think he would hold it out, but it was pretty close in the end, you know. So Sainz starting to get to grips with that new car. It's taken him, what are we, the fifth or sixth race, I think, at this stage. So signs that he's starting to get the grips with it there and get the pace out of it. So yeah, that was fantastic from him.
Definitely, Williams are very much finding their feet now, and it is great to see, you know, like, I mean, to see that car up there again fighting like with the leaders, I mean, that was just incredible to see, and it is great just to see Williams there. But moving on, and Isidro, I'm going to bring you on in this one. Aston Martin, finally we can actually talk positively about Aston Martin this weekend. Well, a little bit, not the whole weekend, but in qualifying anyway. Aston Martin, they actually woke up and realized they were a Formula One team. They brought some rocket ship upgrades to the car this weekend. They had an incredible Q2 by knocking out both Ferraris. Both Ferraris gone. I mean, at the ImolaGP, Aston Martin were just like 007, James Bond, good night, painting the town red with Aston Martin. So they were. Isidro, what are your thoughts on that one?
I was very surprised to see an Aston Martin going from end up in Q3, basically. I mean, like Alonso and Stroll were probably, oh, I didn't know there was this area here. I thought it was just Q1 all the time. So the fact that, but it's strange that that car only lived for the qualifying, because in the race they disappear. So that means they are probably doing something right if they manage to give the car a boost to end up in Q3, and in the race not so much, but there's some work there that definitely happened.
Yeah, definitely. I know, like, Adrian Newey, he's not meant to be looking at the car this season. I think the rules are in his contract, it's from next season onwards. But I think Adrian Newey just got to a point where he was like, look, I don't want you not getting any points this season. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to whisper a little secret to one guy, and then he's going to whisper it to you. But it didn't come from me, but it really did. Wink, wink. And then all of a sudden, Aston Martin are just there like a freaking rocket ship during Imola. It was brilliant to see that. But moving on from Aston Martin, though, of course, look, with Mercedes, Russell, he did have a great lap to qualify P3. Antonelli, he struggled a little bit this weekend in qualifying, but he did get P10. And then, of course, look, we did have McLaren again this weekend. It's great to actually talk about this, that, you know, McLaren, again, another fantastic weekend, because they were a team that were just basically the worst on the grid only a couple of years ago. But of course, look, Piastri, he did put in a blistering lap to get P1, and I'm nearly sure it was Lando Norris was P4. But the last point I do want to talk about, guys, before we move on to the main race, is Isaac Hadjar. We do need to talk about this, because one point that was actually mentioned during the qualifying session was that Isaac Hadjar has always, I'm nearly sure, made it into Q3. That's what one of the pundits did say. They said he's always made it into Q3 with that Visa Cash App, Super Value, Bitcoin, Zoom, Fujitsu, Nikon Formula One team. But basically, what the point I want to raise is, is this possibly the time where we start talking about a Red Bull swap again? Like, do you think maybe that it's time for Isaac Hadjar to maybe get his time in that second Red Bull seat? Because look, I know obviously, and we'll talk about Yuki in the race when we talk about it, and I know he did have his incident there during qualifying, but I mean, if you want to kind of look at this in two ways. First of all, you got to look at Antonelli. He's an incredible rookie this season. He's been doing really, really well. And then you look at Isaac Hadjar. He's another rookie in this season, and he is doing absolutely incredible. You know, like, and he's been having battles with Yuki as well, and in some cases he's outperformed Yuki. And you know, is this a case? Should we be talking about it, or is it a bit too premature?
Yeah, it is. Unless you want to end Hadjar's career straight away and put in the Red Bull seat, but if you want to get a very good driver, I would keep in the Racing Bulls at least for 2 years before making the attempt to get into a Red Bull or something. He's still very young. He's doing well in the Racing Bulls, but I don't think he's prepared to deal with the pressure that will be the second seat of the Red Bull.
And Damien,
unless Max Verstappen is gone, then there is no pressure and anyone can just drive the car.
Yeah, of course. And Damien, do you agree with that? Do you think it's too early, or do you think maybe down the line, like during the season, he should be given a shot?
Keep him where he is. Yeah, he's learning his trade there. I think he has 7 points from the season, which is excellent. You know, he's getting into good qualifying positions. He's getting into the top 10 regularly enough. I think he scored points in most races anyway, 1 or 2 here and there. So, and he's showing that he's a good racer. He's got a good head on his shoulders. So, yeah, leave him where he is. Give him a couple of years, and yeah, as Idro said there rightly, the Max Verstappen question is still kind of looming. So, is it this season, next season, whatever it might be? He's in with a shout once that comes around, if he's developed well, and he's on that trajectory anyway. So yeah, keep him where he is. There's enough madness in the Red Bull world.
Don't
for this season anyway.
Yeah. Don't tank his career too soon, because pretty much it looks like that second Red Bull seat is absolutely cursed. But moving on, we do have to talk about the main event, the race. And of course, look, what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to jump straight on into it, because we do need to talk about McLaren and Red Bull. They were obviously the focal point of that race when it came to the performance and, you know, the back and forward there. But look, we'll talk about each point as we kind of go along. But the first thing I want to talk about is that turn one absolutely beautiful overtake by Max Verstappen. I mean, that race start was absolutely incredible. Oscar Piastri, he had a fantastic start. He got ahead of Max Verstappen. He was on point, but going down into turn one there, he just absolutely bottled it. And then pretty much Max Verstappen made him look like an absolute wally. And it wasn't even a case that, like, you know, like that Piastri was so far behind. It was very much a case that, like, they were fighting side by side, but Max just literally, like butter, just melted right through the side of him, and then off he went into the distance, like typical Max from 2023 and last year as well. Damien, what are your thoughts on that turn one moment?
Did Piastri bottle it? I don't know.
I mean, he did say he broke early.
He certainly was on the brake pedal quite early. Yeah. I think it was Russell who was on the radio not long after. He was like, what the hell is he doing? You know, so I think Russell was going to ram up the back of him as well. So yeah, not sure what happened. I don't think Piastri is somebody to bottle it, if you want to use that phrase. So I don't know what happened, but I do know that he did break way too early. And of course, the king of the late breakers, Max, just took advantage of that. You know, he's zero fear when it comes to these things, and he just stuck it in the corner, and he won it out. It was a fantastic move by him, and he got it done so quickly. I thought it would at least be a couple of laps before he challenged, but he was like, nope, it's fine, I'm taking it. Yeah, I think Oscar just took his eye off the prize a little bit. I didn't see the post race interviews in the paddock. I did see just straight after, he was like, oh yeah, I probably put on the brake a little bit too early, we'll look at it, kind of thing. But I'm sure there was interviews where he talked about it a little bit more. But yeah, not sure what happened to him. But yeah, Max, he takes advantage of those things straight away. You can't give him an inch, or he'll take it, you know.
Yeah, if you give him an inch, he'll take an absolute feckin' country worth in terms of distance when it comes to the advantage. Isidro, what did you think of that one? It was just absolutely beautiful, wasn't it? That overtake through that chicane, the first turn. Oh, I was sitting here and I was like, that is just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Isidro, what did you think of that?
Yeah, it was beautiful. The
Just
first
poetry in
second,
motion.
the first second, I was like, "Oh, Piastri has a great start. I'm not sure Max can make it." But 2 seconds later, we can see just that beautiful overtake on that chicane. It was just beautiful. And after that, Max was able to just keep keep the lead, and the the safety cars and the virtual safety cars surely help. But I think the race was decided in that little turn one, turn two fight, and that was it. After that, it was just Max. If
Yeah.
Max is in the lead, it's very difficult to take it out, unless that there's a problem with the car.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, to be honest though, like when it comes to Red Bull, like I did want to start talking about McLaren when we went into this, but you know, I just going into this weekend again, it's just Red Bull. I've seen them obviously over the last kind of couple of weekends. They have been struggling, but it's just great to see Max back doing what he does best, you know, and pretty much I think that theme tune was just going on in the back of his head, that Max Verstappen. You know, he just absolutely bombed it down the track and he was gone. And I think also as well, I'm nearly sure this time last year, he was doing the 24 hours of the Nürburgring in the sim iRacing. He was doing that, participated in that, and then went out and did the ImolaGP and won it. And then this year again, he was actually doing the same thing. He wasn't doing the 24 hours of the Nürburgring now, but he was doing something else with iRacing and his like sim racing team. And then he goes out and then wins the ImolaGP. I think that's the trick. I think the drivers, they need to get at least a race in on the sim on iRacing or something like that before they hop into the actual car. Maybe that gives them a little bit of luck. But of course, look, I do want to talk about McLaren because, you know,
I mean, before we jump to that,
yeah,
we're talking about Red Bull. We cannot forget that Tsunoda is starting P20 and finishing P10. So
that
the
is
overall
true.
Red Bull team was very good this weekend.
No, that is true. I mean, yeah, I was going to come back to Tsunoda there, but of course, yeah, no, starting from the pits and to come back there and claim P10. But we will definitely come back to Tsunoda because I do want to talk about him as well during that whole safety car and virtual safety car incident that occurred on track. But when it comes to McLaren, though, I mean, when you kind of look at it, like McLaren came into this weekend and pretty much, you know, everyone was kind of expecting them to be this team again. Another weekend, they just took it away. It was going to be another Piastri and Norris, potentially P1 and P2. But I mean, you know, I even heard Jacques Villeneuve talking about this. And to be honest, I really don't agree with what most of Jacques Villeneuve talks about. I think he talks a lot of waffle most of the time. But when you could kind of see them that they were hesitating a lot when it came to just the challenge to Max Verstappen. You know, like you could even see Piastri was dropping off, Norris was dropping off. Like even there, like we even heard at one stage that like the medium tires were starting to come back alive. And, you know, they were saying, oh, well, this is the opportunity now. Norris is going to go after Max and he's going to be able to put it to him now. And hopefully it might be a P1, P2 McLaren situation, but they just didn't. They just, where did that performance go? Damien, I'm going to bring you on this one because I know obviously Piastri, he had a little bit of a delay in the pit. Well, actually twice he had a delay in the pits. But I mean, like, even though, yes, he did perform well to get through the pack and, you know, he did get a few spaces back, but they did look like they were struggling in terms of performance. Am I right in saying that?
Um, Probably a little bit. I think Max was just really good this weekend as well. He found pace in that car like he always does somehow. I think the Red Bull car likes that track too, but yeah, McLaren just weren't on the button this weekend. You know, they just a little bit off here and there. You know, like the whole thing with Piastri in the first corner. Some of the pit stops are a little bit off. They were, you know, I think sometimes 6, 7 seconds behind the car in front in terms of behind Verstappen. And, you know, when they were coming out from pit stops and they were in the middle of the midfield, it took them a while to get back up. So Yeah, everything just wasn't perfect this weekend like it usually is, and I don't know if that's down to other teams doing well. I think Williams were in the mix, and they were kind of in around P3, 4, 5, 6
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
Williams. So Aston Martin were up there as well. So yeah, I think it was just there was a lot going on, and they just weren't 100% on their game. But in the end, they did quite well. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah, they did. Like they definitely did. But like, like I know obviously like Norris, like he fought back. Like obviously again, Norris getting unlucky with the virtual safety car. They pitted him too early. He always falls victim to that. And then I know with obviously Piastri, even with that sort of delay that they had in the pit stop, I think it was the rear left or the rear right or something like that. Anyway, twice it happened on the same tire. He just absolutely took off and went after the pack. But it just, you could really see there even near the end, like Piastri was struggling in a massive way. And I think probably the best way to look at it is he just overcooked those tires. I think it just probably got to a stage where those tires were ready for the bin. And I mean, look, Isidro, I'm going to bring you this on the in on this as well, because it just really did look that McLaren, they definitely had a difficult weekend. Am I right in saying that? Even though they did have a good result, I feel like they did have a difficult weekend.
Yeah, I think they went to this weekend thinking they would be able, with Piastri getting P1, they thought they would have Imola in the bag and just get a lot more points than actually happened. It's not that McLaren is losing performance. It's just, I think, bad luck, really. The fact that the pit crew, they've been consistent for the past races, and today just they weren't there. So I think it was just a bit of bad luck. And McLaren, it's still the rocket ship that it was when it's at the championship.
No, for sure. And I mean, like, even near the end there, like that Norris and Piastri battle at the very end, like even Norris coming in there on the radio going, look, I can see Oscar's tires. They look a little bit worn, I'm just saying in terms of moving on and, trying to get this win. Should we swap the cars? Like, I'm not asking to swap the cars, but we are. And then eventually they were let go and they had that battle. I mean, like, that was actually really, really cool to see. But, I think it's just more as well, like, like we're talking about like the performance there and Piastri, he had a difficult weekend. And, I think it was a bit harsh in me saying he did bottle P, or not P1, but the turn one. But I think it's just like, if you look at the comparison of between a situation like that with Piastri, he did mess up turn one. He even admitted it himself. He was like, I braked too early, and then Max took advantage of that. But then you compare that to Lando Norris. He's been in that situation before, and everyone is just like, oh, he's a terrible driver. Oh, he's terrible, blah, blah, blah. But we're giving Piastri a pass. It just... That's kind of the difference that I'm seeing there between the two drivers. Everyone's like, oh, Piastri, it's okay, we love you. And then Norris is just like, oh, you're fucking terrible. It's like, it's just a bit kind of inconsistent there. But look, anyway, McLaren, they had a bit of a difficult weekend, but of course, look, they had a very, very strong result. And then just quickly going back in there to Red Bull, of course, look, when it came to the virtual safety car with Ocon and then Antonelli, of course, Yuki Tsunoda coming from the pits, starting off in the pits to come back. I know obviously he had a little bit of difficulty trying to defend against Piastri, and then he had a little bit of difficulty when it came to a few other cars, but he did come back, and then he finally finished P10. That was an incredible performance by Yuki Tsunoda. But moving on, though, we do need to talk about Aston Martin. As I said, they had an amazing qualifying session, rocket ship of the car. They started off strong in the race, but then, oh my God, after the virtual safety car, it went from being a Formula One car into an F4 car. It was non-existent. What happened there? Isidro, what are your thoughts on Aston Martin again?
I think for the qualifying, they had some, like you say in the beginning, Newey was just in the room, in an open room, just drawing a few things in the whiteboard. Someone was taking notes, but that guy left on the Saturday afternoon, didn't come back for the Sunday to take more notes from Andrew Newey. So, and that's why they didn't get the updates for the car or what they should, because it's night and day. The qualifying Aston Martin was not the same Aston Martin that we saw in the race.
No,
and
definitely not.
It's sad they didn't get the same performance, because they have Alonso in there and he deserves more than just finish in the shadows of ImolaGP.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But
Yeah.
saying that, if they can make the changes that happened for the qualifying to show up in the race day, I think Aston Martin might come back and start being on the top 10 rather than vary on the P16s, P17s.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you're right in that one. The designer was he just took an early lunch on Saturday and he was like, "Oh, look, I'm done here. Look, you'll get somewhere. It'll be grand." But moving on, Damien, I'm going to bring you on this one. Ferrari, they were quick. They did struggle. They definitely struggled throughout the race. There was a few times there they were going back and forward, but then eventually, when that safety car came in with Antonelli, overall, they took P4 and P6. I mean, going from where they started, what was it, P11 and P12, I think it was, on the grid, and then eventually with that whole Albon battle. And Damien, we are not going to get into that incident with Leclerc on this one because it'll probably take another half an hour to 40 minutes, and this podcast will be about 2 hours long. But real quick, though, what are your opinions on Ferrari this weekend?
Qualifying was abysmal. It was absolutely awful for their home Grand Prix. If you look at it that way, they were just way off the pace. The Aston Martins, I'm not going to say came out of nowhere, but their upgrades just really blitzed them, and they took their spots on the starting grid pretty much. So, they must have had a long, difficult conversation after Saturday in the team pit bus. They probably got the hairdryer treatment and had to perform a lot better on the Sunday. They kind of got up the positions quite well from where they started. They were in the mix here and there. Leclerc was doing really well. Hamilton probably not so much, but then in the end it was Hamilton who'd kind of obviously saved his tires and was treating them a little bit better, where he got to overtake at the end, and he kind of played the long game. I think Leclerc was probably quite unlucky throughout the race. He kind of seemed to get the rough end of the stick quite a few times and in quite a few situations. I think around the pits, the pit stops, he kind of got screwed a little bit. He came out down the field, and I think he was behind Hamilton after the safety car pits, that kind of thing. So Leclerc had a bad day in terms of luck, but in terms of the Albon incident, no. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that, Damien. Ferrari probably got the call right in the end.
We're not going to talk about that, but I am going to ask, though, because I want to settle this. Isidro, I'm going to ask you, okay, who was ahead? Was it Leclerc or was it Albon? Now, remember, if you want to be on the right side of history, you got to make the right choice here.
Of course, Albon was on the right side.
Wait, on the right? He was on the right side of Leclerc, but who was ahead?
Albon was.
Oh,
so
Isidro!
Correct.
Yeah.
No.
The cheeky one. I don't think he should have tried to make the move there. Sometimes you can get a little bit hot-headed, but he sent it in there, and Leclerc didn't really give him enough space. Racing incident maybe, or it was a difficult one, but I think he was at least equal, if not just slightly ahead. Cedro, I think is right in his call in that one as well.
No, I think you're both wrong. I think you're terrible. We need new panelists on this show. Let's get Dave and Owen back here, because they seem to know what the right answer was when it came to that one. Dave, are you free next weekend? But anyway, look, we know that Leclerc was ahead. Moving on to Mercedes. So talking about Mercedes real quick, Russell, he did struggle a lot with that battle with Lando Norris. Like, of course, yes, he did put it to him. He did defend him for about 2 or 3 laps. And yes, it was some really great racing there, but you could really see that Russell was struggling. He did mention a couple of times that he was having issues with the rear of that car. And I did notice even before the race did start there that the mechanics, they were actually looking at the back of the car. They had to open up the tail light. And I think they took out a transponder or something like that. I think that's what the excuse was. But regardless of what it is, that absolute butthole of that Mercedes car just does not seem to be working for Russell. This has been a couple of weekends now where Russell has complained about the rear of that Mercedes. Damien, I'm going to bring you in real quick now. I probably will judge your view on this one because your Albon view was completely wrong. But anyway, what's your view on that whole Russell Norris battle in that terrible Mercedes rear butthole?
I think I heard the commentator saying that Russell had started on used mediums. He'd kind of used them in the qualifying session, so he wasn't going to get a lot of life out of those tires in the race. I'm not sure what tires they did use over the weekend, but to start on something that was used quite a lot is what he said was a little bit of a strange call. So I think I was on lap 12 he pitted in the end. So yeah, like usually we get a little bit more out of those mediums than that, but obviously they had a bit of wear on them already. And he was complaining about the rear of the car moving side to side. It was kind of wobbly or something like that as well. So wasn't sure if in the previous pit stop they hadn't attached the wheel properly. There was a wheel nut issue or something like that. But yeah, he didn't seem to be too happy with the back end of that car. So not sure what's going on, but they really need to get to the root of that problem because yeah, it's cropped up a few times in the past number of races. But he still seems to be doing quite well anyway. But yeah, if they want to push on and try and maybe challenge a little bit further into the McLaren goodie of points, they really need to sort that out because yeah, again, that could be the difference between a P1 and a P4 or something, you know. So
yeah, true. There's definitely been a few things that have cropped up, but or should I say crapped up? Get it? Rear of the car. Toilet joke. But anyway, Antonelli, yeah, look, he had a really good start to the race. Like he was actually doing well there, but then of course his Mercedes car decided to park up on the side of the Italian countryside, and he got out and had a lovely little picnic and caused a massive safety car for everybody else on the track, which brought everybody together. And of course Max Verstappen had the pressures of Piastri and Norris behind him, though then of course he backed everyone up at the last corner and then took off and teleported around the track. But we do need to talk about one team in particular, Williams. Now, Damien, I did bring you in firstly on what we did talk about there in qualifying, but Isidro, I want to know your thoughts on Williams because I'm a big judgment on. I don't really. Damien's views are a little bit. I don't trust them anymore.
I think Williams is onto something. They are definitely improving the car race after race, and this weekend we could see Albon fighting for a podium, but I don't think he was. It's not this time yet, but I can see a Albon in the podium maybe in this championship for sure because the Williams has definitely improved since last year, and they are now being consistent, always in the top 10. Always in that middle top 10 most of the time. So they are definitely doing something. And Albon was fighting the Ferrari this weekend. Nowadays, fighting Ferrari is not that much considering the status of them, but nevertheless, Albon was there between Hamilton and Leclerc, and they are definitely fighting for that championship, at least in the middle table of the Constructors' Championship.
Isidro, do you by any chance own like a case of daggers and you're missing two? Because that's one after the Albon terrible opinion on that one. That was wrong. And then second of all, you're saying that Ferrari are a car that can be challenged, no problem at all. That's another dagger in my back, Isidro. Seriously, that hurt.
I know it's tough to hear the truth nowadays.
It's not. You're all telling lies. But anyway, look, moving on. The last team, of course, Alpine, they had absolute terrible pace during that race. And then eventually, look, when it came to Alpine, they ended up P13 for Pierre Gasly and then P16 for Franco Colapinto. But anyway, look, what we're going to do is we're going to quickly run down the top 10 finish for the Emilia-Romagna Enzo Di Ferrari something Imola GP. So P1, we had Max Verstappen. P2, we had Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri in P3, Lewis Hamilton in that Ferrari in P4, Alex Albon coming in there in P5, Charles Leclerc coming in P6, it should have been P5. But anyway, moving on, we had George Russell in P7, we had Carlos Sainz in P8, double points again for Williams this weekend, and we had Isaac Hajar in P9 and Yuki Tsunoda in P10. But look, if you didn't catch the race, folks, there was a virtual safety car that meant that Ocon DNF'd and Antonelli, his car gave up the ghost, which did cause a safety car. Now, that was the ImolaGP. We are going to move on to our next segment, our lovely driver of the day, our dick of the day, and our loser of the day. Damien, who was your DDL?
My driver of the day had to be Max, right? He was didn't put a foot wrong, took advantage of every opportunity that was put in front of him, and with a car that has been struggling the past while, he pulled out the wins. So yeah, have to give it to him for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And who's your dick of the day?
Leclerc and Albon share it for that incident. Let's call it a 50-50 on that one, and we will say no more. Loser. I think Charles Leclerc again. He gets a double mention this week. He offended the stick in so many situations. The VSC, the Albon, his radio calls were a little bit moany all day. So yeah, I think that was fitting title for him.
Definitely. And Isidro, who was your DDL?
Well, driver of the day would be definitely Max Verstappen. There's that's not up to discussion. The dick of the day, that would be McLaren's mechanics. They screw up Piastri's race, or at least the excitement that he could bring to the race. And the loser of the day must be Kim Antonelli. His home race and his first DNF is at home. That kind of suck. Yeah,
I can see that. I agree with that. I mean, for his home race to DNF, that was I'd say that was definitely a disappointing one for him. But yeah, look, my driver of the day, Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen take about, oh my god, what a race! Just that turn one, like that move in turn one, that was so, oh my god, it was dirty. That was like fucking 18s rated kind of overtake there. It was just chef's kiss. It was beautiful. But then the dick of the day, of course, look, y'all know it. It's of course Liam Lawson. Like there's nobody else. It's Liam Lawson all the way. And then finally, my loser of the day is Charles Leclerc, because he was ahead. Anyway, moving on to the predictions game. Of course, look, the guys did send in their predictions, Dave and Owen, for the ImolaGP. We will start off, but actually, no. I actually do need to make a public apology. The first time I've actually had to apologize. Last week, I did make an error when it did come to one of Owen's predictions. I did say, I think it was like Hajar. I gave him 0 points for Hajar or something like that, or it might have been Alonso. So Owen, I do apologize. I am really, 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 really sorry. Really sorry. I'm doing the do you know the oil BP, the South Park? We're really sorry. But anyway, Damien's gonna have to wash out his eyes with bleach after seeing that. But anyway, moving on. So Dave had Norris in P1, Piastri in P2, and Leclerc in P3. So that was a 0, 0, and a 0. Then he had his flop. Now, he was almost close with this one. Unfortunately, if he would have said he actually crashed in qualifying, but he had Tsunoda to DNF crash. So unfortunately, I have to give him 0 points for that one. I would like to give him half a point because he was half right. He did crash this weekend. And then also as well, it was Hajar inside the top 10. And look, I need to make sure I clarify this. Hajar did he did indeed finish inside the top 10. So that is 1 point there for Dave. Now, looking under the microscope for Owen's predictions, we had Piastri in P1, which was 0. Norris in P2, which was correct. So there you go, Owen, 1 point. Then also as well, we had Lewis Hamilton in P3. So he just missed out on that by 1 place. But then he had Sainz to DNF, which was a 0-pointer. And then Ocon inside the top 10. Lol. But anyway, Zach is 1 point for Owen. Isidro, what were your predictions?
I went with Piastri P1, Max P2, and Norris P3.
Oh, so close.
Right, guys, different order.
Yeah.
And then I went with Leclerc DNF. That didn't happen. Albon almost make sure that could happen, and then Stroll inside top 10. That happened in qualifying.
I'm just looking at that there. I mean, of all people to say inside the top 10, like I know they had a rocket ship of a car, but just Lance Stroll.
But you were scared on the Saturday when you saw Stroll inside top 10. So.
I know. I was looking at that and I was like, oh, this actually might happen. But anyway, my predictions, I had Piastri P1, which was a 0-pointer for me. Norris P2. Yes, let's go Norris. And then also Verstappen P3. So similar to yourself, Isidro, I had the right guys, but 2 of them were in the wrong order. And then I had Albon outside the top 10. My God, Albon, you let me down big time. And then Hajar inside the top 10. Let's go. 2 points for me this weekend, finally. And then Damien, what are your points or your predictions?
I had Piastri P1, which is a duck egg, and Norris P2. Point for that, please. Russell P3. And I had Yuki outside top 10 for my flop, which is a 0, and Ocon inside top 10, which also just 1 point.
So am I right in saying here, because like, you know, if we need to get what was it, KPMG, the auditors in here, we just need to double check this. Can I just highlight that weekend there? Who's that person who has the most points this weekend? Oh, it's me. With 2 points. Let's go. Taking the weekend victory here for the ImolaGP. Thanks, Imola. You were beautiful. Wow. Thank you. So that means that, sorry, Damien, what was that?
Catch up on, so fair play.
So anyway, that means when it comes to the table, we have Dave with 7 points, we have Owen with 11 points, we have Isidro with 5. I have finally upgraded from Kick Sauber to Haas with my 8 points, and Damien is still in a demanding lead there with 13 points. Ooh, very, very nice. Number 1, that's it. But anyway, moving on, we have the Monaco GP. So the guys did send in their predictions already. Dave, he did have Norris P1, Piastri P2, and Leclerc P3. And then his flop is going to be Sonoda in the wall for 2 points. I do like that. I do like that prediction. And then also as well, his surprise is Alonso inside the top 10. Owen's predictions are Piastri, Norris, and Leclerc, P1, P2, and P3. And then Verstappen is his flop to DNF. Okay, it's an interesting one. And then Gasly is his surprise to finish inside the top 10. Now, Isidro, what are your predictions?
My predictions, Piastri, Max Verstappen, and Leclerc.
Piastri, sorry, I need to put these in here again. Sorry. Piastri,
Max, and Leclerc.
And Leclerc. Okay. And then what's your flop and what's your big surprise?
The flop would be Hajar outside top 10.
Hajar outside? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And surprise is Gasly inside top 10.
Ooh, what's with all the Gaslys this weekend? I mean, did he show something this weekend that he's going to do class or something? Is there some...
Gasly has been driving at night in Monaco by now.
Yeah. Is there some inside group chat that I don't know about where you are seeing a different performance than I am? Getting some good some good figures here. But anyway, my predictions, I'm gonna go with Piastri. I don't know. Actually, no. I'm gonna go Piastri, Norris, and look, I know Verstappen, he had a great weekend, but I am going to say no. Sorry, I'm gonna go Piastri, Verstappen, and then Norris. That's my predictions from my P1, P2, and P3. And then I'm going to say for my flop, I'm going to say, just let me just quickly double check here. I'm going to say, oh, do you know what? I'm going to say Antonelli is going to DNF. He's going to bin it. Actually, no. He's going to bin it into the wall. That's just, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then my surprise is going to be, let me see. Do you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Alonso inside the top 10. All right, there we go. Yeah, Alonso inside the top 10. All right, cool. Now, Damien, what are your predictions?
I had Piastri P1, Norris P2, and Leclerc P3. And for my flop, I have Hamilton outside the top 10. And for my surprise, I have Gasly inside the top 10.
Again, with another Gasly. Are you guys in like a different, seriously, do you have your own group chat or something where you're all finding out all these like performance stats about like Gasly and Alpine and all, like I'm out of the loop here, guys, seriously. But anyway, hopefully that works out for you, or hopefully it doesn't and works to my advantage, and then Alonso gets inside the top 10 and you all get 0 points again. But anyway, that is awesome. But again, look, folks, thank you so much for taking time out of your day this afternoon. It was great to talk about the Emilia-Romagna Enzo di Ferrari something ImolaGP. Of course, look, you're completely wrong about Albon and Leclerc, but it was great to talk to you about the entire weekend. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
No problem at all. We'll let Damien go back to his his luxurious holidays again. We missed you for Miami. We really did. We did have a lot of fun though, but we did miss you for Miami.
I'm actually back there next weekend as well.
Oh, you're a couple of weekends late there, David. You are. But anyway, Isidro, thank you so much as well to yourself. It was great to talk to you this weekend about the Imola GP. Love to hear your thoughts again. It's next weekend. Yeah, it's next weekend. Yeah, we have Monaco, isn't it? Yeah, it is. But yeah, folks, look, let me know your thoughts in the comment section here on Spotify, YouTube, all the places where you get your podcast. We would love to hear your thoughts on all of the action this weekend, all of the points that we raised, and let us know what you think. But of course, the main thing, definitely make sure if you did like today's episode, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button there on the Spotify page. Definitely give us some love if you did enjoy today's episode. But until next time, we will see you for the most boring race on the calendar, the Monaco GP. Adios.